Recording in progress.
No,
Updates are not different. That was okay the last several times.
It's just never know, it's really big. When it works, it works. Oh, it does.
And you can hear the conversation better,
Yes.
you know, which is the main thing.
So it's great.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever got back to you or not. I've met you several times, but a couple of court sessions ago when there was that charge from 911 to the Forest Service that you,
Oh, yeah.
it was for lease on one of the repeater sites.
Oh, excellent.
So I've been.
I assumed it had a,
Yeah.
just wondering what it was.
Yeah, unless you think about all the system itself, you don't think about why there should be a charge.
Out
So
there, but. Have they had any further issues with them, or are they all?
they're still, it's a work in progress. They're still working on updating and different.
Because with some of that, large grant, wasn't there some updates to those repeaters?
Yeah, but then their seasonal access, obviously, you know, there's a until,
Did the one on the south end ever get reestablished?
I don't know.
Because they had me work with landowners there, and then they never did anything. And then they decided that they were gonna do something else, and then it was kind of like all over the board.
They need to be located or add another one down there, so
Because Roaring Springs is willing to add one on their property.
that would be a decent spot. It would cover, because that valley is dead,
Yeah.
even with the steam.
You have to get, the city from that main road, you have to get out, kind of directionally, away from the city.
West.
Yeah, if you get out a little bit further, about a mile, you can pick service back up out there. Nowhere within that shadow.
But along the highway as it's
Yeah, the
shadowed
highway
by
and all
the finish
that.
line there.
There's-
Yeah, I think they'd even talked about trying to put some over on Heart Mountain somewhere or something.
Well, that's what I've heard, that they thought about that, but I mean, if you can have on there and on the springs.
More the better.
You have good coverage.
Yeah.
Little Springs was willing to use caution and everything. I got it that far, then
Really?
the ball got dropped, so. Cause they'd like to put maybe something of their own up, for their own staff.
I'd have to look at the land status map, but most of that behind them is all their property, isn't it?
Yeah, and we have a little chunk up on the hill, apparently the county does, but it wasn't in a very good spot to actually access. And so they have some other spots it would be that you'd be willing to point out, that could work nice. But he said he could hit up about it every couple of years. And then
Never, that never happens.
So. Here we go again.
Well, it's costly. Sites are expensive.
Yeah, but would be nice for the coverage.
Yeah. All right, good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, May 1st, 2024 at 10 a.m. County Court regular session. In order, if you'll stand and join with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I actually do the monitor connection. Had it going, but I get kicked off. There we go. All right, again, good morning, everybody. We've already taken care of voucher approval, accounts payable. Any late items for the agenda today? Not hearing any. Agenda approval for today's agenda, May 1st.
I move to approve today's county court agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve today's agenda, county court agenda. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Oh,
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. Next item is minutes approval from county court session, April 17th.
I move to approve Harney County Court meeting minutes of April 17th, 2024.
second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the county court minutes of April 17th. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. Next topic on the agenda is opportunity for public comment. Is there any members of the public? Yes, sir, please stand and say your name and.
Rick Paul on SEAC again. When I was at the Burns City Council meeting, one of the items that came up for discussion was trucking. I see you have on the agenda later some issues on trucking. The biggest issue, or the issues, were width of the roadway between here and Bend. But as you get closer to Bend, it widens out. So there's the aspect of the width of the travel lane and the width of the shoulders, because the shoulders, there is not enough room for a truck to pull over and sit. They can sit on a fairly substantial angle. So I will be bringing that up at the meeting, if possible, on the 9th in Ontario. Just so that you know, that's the one issue that they had that was pretty substantial.
And then the width of the shoulders on 78 are non-existent in most places.
Yeah.
So,
But they specifically were saying 20, so
yes, but most of the truck traffic is just as heavy
I know.
as 78.
just going down 78, it's just,
Yeah, it's insane.
so.
There
Thank
is,
you.
there is an organization, there's proposed legislation at the federal level to allow longer trucks. Basically 2 33-foot trailers instead of a 33 and
Instead of just a car.
yeah.
Right.
And there's a lobbying group, whatever, that has contacted the county with, looking for our support and I think I put that in the agenda last time. Myself, I think it's a good initiative to oppose. You look at our highways in Eastern Oregon, the reduced maintenance funds and wintertime maintenance funds. And all we need is bigger, heavier loads out there to deteriorate our highways, put more restrictions on the bridges that we have in place, weight restrictions on them, that we'd have to, it would cost us increased funds to replace and get them to the appropriate standards for those bigger, heavier trucks. And then if you have a truck wreck with bigger trailer, it's just gonna compound the issues and response efforts, emergency response, everything. So for an area like us in Harney County, Eastern Oregon, bigger, heavier trucks, I don't think is a good idea myself.
I think with their traveling speeds, it's already hard enough for them to get stopped in a reasonable manner, let alone put more weight behind them.
So
And 3 trailers. They're allowing 3 trailers. UPS comes through with
Triple
3
trailers,
now
yeah.
consistently, and that originally was only restricted to 84 and I-5.
with that said, Mike, I know it was on the agenda last time, and there were some letters that were attached for signature.
It's on this.
It's on
Is it on this
for
one?
today.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thought we had it on the last one.
No, it is on this one. It's in this packet.
Oh, there it is. Okay. And the correspondence.
Sort of, not related exactly to that, but this is a good opportunity for me to just read into the record a response we got from Jeff Berry, ODOT Assistant Manager, District 14, regarding some of the communications I had with him for concerns between Vail and Burns and safety. And he said, "Good afternoon, Sheriff Jenkins and Commissioner Darrow. I'm right. This was April 18th. I'm writing in response to the emails that you sent regarding traffic safety concerns on US 20 between Vale and Burns. You both expressed concerns about traffic speeds, signs, and striping, specifically around the following intersections: North-South Harney Roads, Rattlesnake, Cary, Cow Creek, Penny, Pine Creek, Newton, and Old Experiment Station Road. The ODOT Region 5 traffic engineer conducted an in-depth engineering review at our request. His summary is attached. He concluded that the accident history on US 20 is lower than the statewide average for similar highways, and therefore does not warrant investment of very limited safety funds at this time. Based on the data provided by the traffic engineer, our observations and community feedback, ODOT has determined to make some improvements at Fry Road, North Harney Lane, and Crane Buchanan Road intersections as detailed below. Traffic signs. ODOT action: ODOT will make minor sign improvements at Crane Buchanan Road and North Harney Lane. Crane Buchanan Road, install no pass signs where appropriate, install intersection ahead signs, replace worn traffic control signs and stop sign. North Harney Lane, install intersection ahead signs, replace worn traffic control signs and stop signs. Future projects: Fry Road, US 395 at 20 Junction. This intersection has been identified for safety improvements in the 27 to 30 STIP. The details of this project have not been determined at this time, but will be more substantial than simple sign improvements. So I know you all just discussed the STIP at your meetings. Speed limit signs. We have 10 speed limit signs between Vale and Burns. See the attached report. Speed limit signs appear to be installed after every speed transition and major connector road, which aligns with state and federal standards. In our experience, supplemental speed limit signs do not provide a measurable safety benefit in rural settings. ODOT action: ODOT will verify that the existing speed limit signs are in place and in good condition. Striping. The current striping configuration was based on an engineering study and aligns with state and federal standards. No action. Thank you for your dedicated service. I hope this information has been helpful. And I followed up with a brief email that said, hello, Jeff. Thank you for your work on this, providing the information and indicating which ODOT actions and future actions we can anticipate. We appreciate any efforts you will make to follow up and expedite this plan. Please also advise us on any other additional options there are to reduce the safety hazards we've identified, even ones that would require us to obtain grant funding outside of ODOT and possibly actions through county and landowner initiatives to implement. This is a high priority for us and we look forward to working with you sincerely. So that's where those things stand at this time. I think that's some progress. The individual constituent who had most concerns is in the loop as well.
Did you forward that?
Yes, I will.
So that I've got it.
Sure.
Follow up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect timing for that.
I can add that to the agenda if you send it to me, like on tap.
I will.
Any other public comment? Sir, yes.
My name is Rob Frank. After going through the packet, I just had two questions I was curious about. The first was in regards to the transfer of funds. And I was just curious if there is a threshold for county governments under which they don't have to pass a resolution to transfer funds. I know with the school district, I think it's 10% of our total budget. If it exceeds that, we have to pass a resolution. And I was just curious if there's any kind of regulation or statute.
10% of funds. Isn't that correct?
So within our budget though,
We have
a little further.
So by resolution, we transfer from one category to another: personnel services, materials and supplies, either direction. We have to do a resolution because because you're reallocating appropriated funds from one purpose to another purpose. So we have to do a resolution for those. The 10% rule comes in as far as a supplemental budget goes. You can expend or receive revenues up to 10% of that fund without having to do a supplemental budget. Then there's another 15% rule that is if the transfer is less than 15% of that category, you can do it without a supplemental budget. when you look at the general fund, our general fund has multiple departments in it, so all of those personal service categories add up together, all the materials and supplies add up together. So when you start looking at 10% or 15% of those totals, it's a pretty big amount that you can do without having to do a supplemental budget.
But the RHC is an outside of general fund, and so that's why often we're.
I was just curious, because one of those was a pretty small amount, and I didn't know if it's just for transparency or if you're required to.
It's because that fund is out of sight of general fund, it's just its own fund. That it seems like a smaller amount.
For ours, and it's my understanding, they will have to do some research and it'll save us some work, but my understanding is that if it's moved from one category to another, such as materials and supplies to personal services or vice versa, then we have to do a resolution transferring the funds.
I was just curious. My other question was on the zoning for the city of Hines. And reading through that just briefly, I was curious, it doesn't specifically say anything about the nature of that housing, but I just was wondering if there was any clarification on the type of housing, mostly because my concern is if it is subsidized or HUD housing.
I know a little bit about that just from my visit down at Community Planning Department, and they could share some more with you potentially. But the individual, the Telos, it's a lot of the land behind like Big R in there. And that they weren't planning on it being HUD housing, because I shared the same concern with them. And apparently that individual has indicated that that was not the intention, that it really is for regular family housing, but I think we all share concerns as we've seen it become other type of housing that isn't really meeting our strategic goals for middle-class housing within the county, so.
And it's my impression that when federal and possibly state funds are part of a project, and many times they are, then you lose some ability to frame it because they have rules, that for equity that allow everything to be open up, so.
So if it is rezoned, if they wanted to make it subsidized housing, would they be able to do that once it's rezoned residential without any input from the county government?
I would assume so.
The cities can, yes,
The
without,
cities.
if it's a city thing.
Yeah, 'cause
But the company, the
we're just
developer,
being notified, as a,
It's very early on in the planning for that. But it's my understanding too, from the individual who owns that property and who's behind the development, that it is not intended to be subsidized housing, it's to be workforce housing. Again, that's our understanding at this point. It will be incumbent upon the cities and the county to stay abreast of that development and what the plans evolve into, if they do evolve into something different.
Sometimes in early phases, the action participants say it will just be workforce housing, and then later it is not. I've seen that happen here.
My biggest concern with two developments potentially starting up with the Miller Springs and the Telos development, that we end up in a surplus situation for housing. And if a developer has empty houses sitting out there and they want to get some kind of return on their investment, then they start looking for alternative ways of filling them. That's my concern. In the process of these developments, that they consider the supply and demand side of it. We don't have jobs in the economic driver for people to move here and buy houses, then you end up with empty houses that they have to find some way to get the return on their investment.
And there have been situations where homeless from other counties are more or less transferred in to take advantage of that housing, and they stay and there are no jobs for them. It's a concern.
thank you.
So my
well,
concerns,
you gotta say true.
Oh, please, yeah, state your name.
yeah, Barb Kennedy, just in following that line of discussion, is there any chance that this LLC development would be tax exempt?
I don't know exactly where the urban renewal boundary is in relationship to that that development. I know the urban renewal, as I found out yesterday, the urban renewal boundary does encompass a portion of the Miller Springs development, which I didn't realize until yesterday, and the implications of their phase one construction there and our tax revenues is again another concerning point. There's so much, and I learn a little bit, and then it gets debunked on this urban renewal agency. So it is so complicated. And to be quite frank, City of Burns has introduced or entered into the R3 agreement, which will play a part in all that. The urban renewal, the R3, and then the City of Burns itself. There's a lot yet to be seen and learned and understood on those developments.
It's hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
Not always.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Not seeing any, we shall move along then. Next topic is old business, and we,
Do you attend the Burns meetings? Do you attend the City of Burns meetings? I'm just curious.
No, I didn't. Oh, I didn't.
first topic under old business, we invited, Vector Control, Edward Horvath. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Welcome, and, thanks for coming back to county court for us, so we could, any questions possibly for this year's, vector control program and processes. Is there
Yep.
anything you have specific that you'd like to brief us on first?
No, I just wanted to let you know, well, I guess there was a few things. We gave you the proposed prices for 2025. So we just needed to get that approved, but that's for the next year's budgeting. Our focus is for West Nile and other arboviruses. This last year, we had 2 cases of West Nile pop up in Harney County. And with HIPAA laws, they won't tell us where they're at. So if there's any chance we could get some public education out there, let people know, let us know where they have West Nile cases, because it'll help us focus on that spraying. It kind of concerns me because Harney County's not a small county. And so it could be anywhere, it could be within the cities, but they won't tell us where they're at. But we're continuing to focus towards those areas that are known to have West Nile, which is a lot of the areas along the side of Burns and Hines. Other than that, we started last week larviciding. This year, you see a lot of water out there from this crazy winter we had. I think we're gonna have an interesting few weeks coming up for mosquitoes, but we started already. So we're spraying the cities in the county every other week. Larviciding starting last month. Fogging typically starts the end of May, but I have a feeling we're gonna be starting a little bit earlier. And then we're gonna go a little bit later this year because of the fair and a few other things happening in town. But we're keeping the same prices just because we want to help the people there. You got any questions for me?
So West Nile cases, since you kind of hit that first, have you talked with our health department staff on any of that and trying coordination to get to know where those cases are coming from?
I did, and I'm gonna be meeting with them here in the next couple of weeks to try to do some coordination between them and us. Typically, people let us know where they're at, so I think the health department can't legally tell us, so they have to have their patients tell us. So we're going to be working with them, trying to get that information to us. I'm kind of guessing where I know where they're at, but we can only guess so much when you have a county the size of Connecticut.
Yeah. And then this year, will this be the first year of increased coverage? I know last year we had spoke about signing off on a request for a larger permit area for yourselves for application.
No, we didn't go for a larger area in general. We were going to get a permit through the DEQ that would incorporate the city and county all together into one permit. What that does is give us the opportunity to put more chemicals in the county and less in the cities when needed, or vice versa. Right now, we're limited to 4,800 acres per municipality. And so legally, I need to combine them into one permit so that we can have it cover the entire county. or not the entire county, but the entire program area, which is about 4 miles outside each of the city boundaries. If that makes sense. We didn't extend the distance on any of the treatment areas unless you guys want to. Right now, we're going 4 miles south of Hines, 2.5 miles east and north of Burns. Pretty much only going up to the city limits on the west side because of the fact that the mountains are there. The tribe has asked for some help in the past, but I haven't. They haven't moved forward on that yet. There's a lot of issues up there because of the flooding of the river and whatnot. In my hints are, I have a feeling that's probably where some of the West Nile cases are, is up in that area where it floods and holds water for a long time.
Okay. Yeah, and my misunderstanding on the joining of the permits, I recall that statement now, but I was just thinking that it was an increase of territory to be able to cover, but I do remember, I recall now that it was just a joining of the areas to be able to better treat.
Yeah, and if we need to extend out in areas, we could do that. It's no big deal. We're trying to focus on the people who need the help, which is, it's the whole county, but if there's one house 16 miles out, it doesn't really make financial sense to go out 16 miles. We are going out and helping people outside of the boundaries just to help them. We have some people along the canyon to the northwest that we've just gone out and helped them because they needed it. It's not within the area, but it was for, when you got an 80-year-old out there being eaten alive, we just want to help them.
Yeah. What was the boundary to the south, the treatment area to the south? How far south was it?
It goes about 4 miles south of the city. Am I able to share my screen?
Sure.
Can you see that? Oh, nope, I'm disabled. Are you able to give me that permission?
Yeah, try it again.
Okay. All right, do you see that map?
Yep.
Okay, so, and do you see my cursor? I don't know if you're able to see this.
Yeah.
Okay, so the county goes down to here, the whole boundaries go to here. Originally it was here, but we had some flooding down here that was causing some problems up here. So we included this last year. The county boundaries are basically right here. They go out 2.5 miles out here. They don't quite go to the airport. They go out here, but there's only one house out there, and we've actually sprayed out there for them once, just to help them out. But that's where the boundaries is on that road right now. Where I was telling you about the house with some issues was up in here. And we do go out and help them, but it's not part of the project, and we don't, we can't do it for everybody. We're hoping that with the irrigation that's happening up in this area, maybe it'll lighten up and it won't cause so many issues here. So these red dots on here are the people who've complained in the last week about mosquitoes or standing water. And as you can tell, it's vast majority of stuff is typically in Hines, typically in Burns, sometimes in Hines, and these little outside places here. There's a place across from the fairgrounds that sometimes complain. That's where the West Nile cases were about 5 years ago. We're in here and up in here. So
how are you receiving these reports?
phone calls and the website. So we have the Harney County Mosquito website. I think it's harneymosquito.org. People are submitting those, and they can submit all their information they want. They could phone call us, they could email us, they could text us. Once we get those calls, and actually all of these were done through the website. So if they put a complaint on the website, it pops up a dot here automatically. And I didn't close these out when she was up there working this week, just to show you guys what we see in the maps. And it's kind of interesting because as the week goes on, we start seeing pop-ups in certain areas, and then she's able to focus her spraying in those areas. And that's why when somebody says, hey, I got mosquitoes, it's really good they do report them to us, because I'm not a mind reader and I don't know if they have mosquitoes. So if they report them to us, it's great. It helps us focus on where we spray, because we are limited to 4,800 acres. If I'm spraying the whole area, we'd be done in 1 week. So we're focusing on hot spots in West Nile Culex species areas.
Okay. We will add a link on our social media to the
Perfect.
harneymosquito.org.
Perfect.
on our social media and help get the word out there and maybe stay on top of the reporting a little bit better and on top of the whole process.
I guess
Yeah,
I have a
Well, that-
concern though with spraying this early, mosquitoes, need warmer temperatures and also standing water. We still have a lot of moving water.
Yep.
And so I would hate to be spraying anything that's, still moving water versus
Oh.
standing water at this point, because we're still being inundated. Like our floodwaters haven't really dropped off yet. And
Yep.
so, just being cautious of not to be expending services on places that are still in transition.
Exactly, and we don't, there's two different things when we say spraying. One is the fogging, and that's why we don't start until they start hatching off. The fogging won't happen until those fields hatch. Then what we're doing now is larviciding. So anything is stagnant now, we're treating that has larvae. If it's flowing, it won't have larvae yet. So there's a lot of places where ditches have seeped through and there's some stagnant water along the sides. Those typically are needing to be treated now. Some of the fields on the edges are, but anything that's freshly flooded doesn't get treated because it doesn't have larvae. We don't treat unless there's actual larvae first. And
Okay.
that's, it's kind of a pain, but it's also part of the rules of the federal permits. And it makes it a little bit harder for us because we're not treating mass areas, but it's also keeping the cost down because we're not treating the mass areas, if that makes sense.
Well, and there's no way to ever completely get around it when you live in a swamp, and we kind of live in
No.
a swamp, so.
No,
We're
No.
doing what we can to control it where the major population is, but we know that we have a lot of limitations in that because we are inundated with standing water regardless.
oh yeah, there's a lot of water in a lot of places. And we never treat the standings, the moving stuff. We're only doing the stagnant stuff, and that's typically, if you actually, I forgot, you can zoom into here. So like these things here, they flood this whole area. That whole area gets flooded, and then right now these red spots are what was actually stagnant and holding larvae. Otherwise we'd be larviciding this whole area, but we don't do anything there. These ditches held water, and they were having mosquitoes. Anything red on here had larvae in it this week, and we're actually stagnant. We know all of this is flooded right now, but it was so fresh that there was no mosquitoes in it yet. I'm suspecting probably start seeing that once those waters stop flowing in. Typically these green ditches have larvae in them right now, or during the season. This week they didn't have them yet. They were still fresh, if that makes sense to you.
No, we've still had higher flows than normal right now.
Exactly. And then that's ironically is these three complaints, we're complaining about this ditch. Yeah. We're doing what we could do, and we're trying to save the cost by not treating unless it's actually needed. And that's why the fogging typically doesn't start until the week before Memorial Day. I just have a feeling we'll probably have to start earlier, and I was just giving you a heads up that we may start fogging earlier. If we need to. The West Nile cases don't come out until the later part of the season, usually August, which is when you really need to fog, but we're hoping that, we're going to do what we can do and see how the season goes. We do have the time scheduled for that fair so that we fog it really good again this year, because in the past people have complained about that. The last couple of years I've heard from them, and they said that it was nice that there was no mosquitoes at the fair. So,
Yeah, that is a very good priority to have.
what was that again?
It's a very good priority to have
The
the fair, yes.
We do that, and then we also keep an eye on the map, or on the calendar. So there's the Obsidian Festival. She plans to be there right before the Obsidian Festival to try to help keep things down so that the people who are coming in to spend money stick around. So if anybody has a festival happening, we appreciate letting us know, because she could schedule it to where she could do it prior to that, and then people don't realize that the mosquitoes could be so bad. If you could keep them in town a few more days, you could make some more money off of the tourists. Is our goals here, I guess.
Commissioner Doral,
No, I have nothing. Thank you.
unless you have anything else for us, I don't think we have.
Nope. Nope, and I appreciate you guys giving me the time. If you have any questions, you guys have my cell phone. Call me anytime. If there's any issues happening, If we have any, we've had a few people in the past complain about the, the legalities of spraying, and we try to knock those down, but if we ever have any issues, we'll let you know.
Okay, and I'll get the 2025 contract out to you.
Okay. That was more of a, for your side, so you could get your budget going. I'm not in a hurry, so whenever you get a chance.
Yeah, those amounts actually don't kick in until July of next year, so it'll be
Yep.
our next budget, not this one we're working on now even, it'll be the next budget.
Okay,
So those
Okay.
figures are actually a year ahead for us,
okay,
but it's good to have them. Thank you very much.
no problem. Thank you guys so much and have a good spring.
All right, thank you, you too.
Bye-bye.
All right, next topic on the agenda is the intergovernmental agreement for building inspection services. We did this during the last court session and found out that it needed to be signed by Klamath County first. So it's been sent back to us to sign again. Any update information or anything?
No, just an agreement for services between the two counties. This was actually a topic of article in the Cleveland Falls Herald News last week. That Dave Hensley was quoted in. My departure has kind of caused the need on their end, and we've needed some of their services, so this is a good partnership between counties.
What's the name of their newspaper?
The Herald News.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so we can make some revenue in our building department by providing these services, and they can make a little bit by providing us some services, and then we're still staying, our building departments aren't relying on the state or anybody else. So it's a good partnership.
Excellent. Very good job getting that going.
Thank you.
So do we need to reapprove or?
Probably wouldn't be bad. So we have an intergovernmental agreement before us for building inspection services. This agreement is made and entered into this, and nobody else dated it. Since we're the last signature, I'm gonna add a date to it today. This first day of May 2024, by and between Klamath County, a political subdivision of the state of Oregon, Klamath County, and Harney County, a political subdivision of state of Oregon, Harney County, each a party and collectively the parties. And it's, now therefore recitals set forth above are true. Duration, this agreement shall become effective on the date at which every party has signed this agreement. This agreement shall not expire unless terminated in accordance with section 8. Functions are or activities subject to the limits of section 3 below. Harney County shall make available to Klamath County, Harney County building inspectors with the qualifications and state certification necessary to perform the inspections requested by Klamath County. And Klamath County shall make available to Harney County, Klamath County building inspectors and plans examiners with the qualifications and state certifications necessary to perform the inspections requested by Harney County. And the agreement goes on. I'm gonna read the whole thing verbatim, but that's basically the gist of it. Is that?
Yeah, in a nutshell, we'll be providing, I will be providing A-level plumbing and medical gas plan review and inspection. And they will be providing us commercial structural plan review and commercial fire life and safety plan review. But we'll do all the inspections ourselves. We just need them for the plan review at this point. The state is going to continue to do our electrical plan review and inspection, because I don't want to change that. Because that's a really tough role to fill that we are actually trying to fill locally, but we're not to that point yet. So I don't want to upset the apple cart with that particular trade.
Are the state inspections for the electrical, are they, do they move along pretty fast, or can they
Yeah.
hold things up quite a bit?
No, they're really good. Willie was here yesterday. We did a restaurant inspection. Super helpful, really quick on the plan review. So it's a good process right now.
Well, I will make a motion then to enter into this intergovernmental agreement between the stated counties.
I'll second.
The motion's been made and second to authorize and enter into the intergovernmental agreement between Klamath County and Harney County for building inspection services. Any further discussion?
Did our county council look at it?
Yes, they did.
Thank you,
They helped draft it and fix anything needed.
thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? And hearing none, motion carries.
I've been working on a part-time basis to carry this along until we got to this moment. So today is the first day that we will, anything comes up, we will be transferring back and forth. So
You just wanna straighten it out, or how you wanna handle it? Mine took my-
Oh, I see.
It's usually at the top, I
It's
think.
usually the top.
oh, I put him on the bottom, didn't I?
Yeah.
It's tricked him up.
It's,
Thank you for noticing. Like,
Do you want
my
to-
parents
can
used
we
to have
check?
a dairy farm. And when it was time to milk the cows got very protective over which stall was their own, so they just routinely went to the same stall. So I routinely normally just sign the top one, that's what I signed, was the top one. All right.
That's good.
Okay,
Glad that's done.
Yeah.
Way to go, Rick.
Yes,
lots more to do, but we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you,
Thanks for
sir.
your time today.
Thank you.
that's it for old business, new business, resolution 24-11 appropriation of funds. Resolution 2024-11 in the matter of appropriating funds due to unexpected occurrence or condition in regard to jail assessment fund 642. This beginning first day of May. County. Whereas an unforeseen occurrence or condition has occurred to with the jail assessment fund 642 is a pass-through fund. Funds are receipted and distributed quarterly. The fund had a residual balance that was budgeted to be fully expended in fiscal year 23-24. A critical error was noted in determining the beginning fund balance, and the jail assessment fund 642 fiscal year 23-24 budgeted beginning fund balance was less than the actual, and therefore be it resolved that the following category appropriations be adjusted and approved for expenditure in the 2023-2024 budget year. Jail assessment fund 245, beginning balance budget
It should say jail assessment fund 642.
642. I was gonna say, I thought that was reading along.
Yeah.
Good
Um,
catch.
Would you like me to print another one?
Let me ask.
You just made a pen change. Are you comfortable with that?
The beginning fund balance budget was $35,112. That's what the new balance will be, is that?
Correct, correct.
Okay, so the new balance will be, after this resolution, will be $35,112, an increase of $3,400. The materials and supplies category, new balance will be $53,412, an increase. Now, both of those say increases, one of those supposed to be an increase in the
No, because
decrease?
you have to increase your beginning fund balance, and then I
Okay,
need to expend it fully in the year, we needed to increase the materials. It was a little confusing, that's true, too. I
yeah,
had
but, I mean, again, normally it's an increase and a decrease, and
Where this was a clerical error.
Yeah.
for the record, Treasurer Heaney has entered the room, and
Yeah, this fund is a pass-through fund and it had a residual balance and, during budgeting last year, Judge Barton and I didn't think about additional funds coming in, so we were short just a little bit and we need this to correct. So that everything balances.
does this fund transfer out 100% every year,
Every quarter.
every quarter?
Mhm. So I.
So it maintains a zero balance every quarter, it's at zero.
Mhm. Yeah, monies from justice court, fines and fees. Part of that is divvied up and goes here, and then it's allocated to, general fund juvenile, community corrections, and state court security. Those three funds all then get a piece of the pie
Okay.
every quarter.
Any further discussion? I will entertain a motion to accept resolution 2024-11.
I move to approve resolution number 2024-11 in the matter of appropriating funds due to unexpected occurrence or condition in regard to jail assessments fund 642.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve resolution 2024-11 in the matter of appropriating funds due to unexpected occurrence or condition in regard to jail assessments fund 642. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And hearing none. Now, taking note, I will sign on the top.
The double check now.
You gotta be able to poke yourself a little bit.
I know, I thought it was funny that you're calling yourself Bessie.
Just setting my ways.
I've been milk tattoos.
Did she get particular?
Well, luckily we just put the grain out and that's she's good to go. You better put your grain out before you turn your cab down or she ain't gonna play the game.
There you go. Next resolution on the agenda then is resolution 2024-12 to correct capital outlay. And RHC materials and supplies. Resolution 2024-12 in the matter of appropriating funds due to unexpected occurrence or condition in regard to Public Health Rural Health Fund 245. Whereas an unforeseen occurrence or condition has occurred to which Harney County Rural Health Clinic materials and supplies and capital outlay budget were more than anticipated for the 2023-24 fiscal year, and interest revenue is substantially higher than expected. And whereas this fund was not anticipated during the preparation, therefore be it resolved that the following category appropriation be adjusted and approved for expenditure in the 2023-2024 budget year. Interest of will be amended to 32,000.
Correct.
An increase of 30,000. Materials and supplies increase to 400 and a new budget balance of $448,050, an increase of $29,000, and capital outlay new balance, new amount of $8,500, an increase of $1,500. An increase of $1,000.
On this particular one, we had a clerical error in a materials and supplies line last year during the budget. We attempted to correct it, it wasn't quite enough, and the RHC, their materials and supplies, were at 97% of the budget with a few months left to go. And then on top of that, there were some computer purchases, which was just slightly over what was budgeted in capital outlay, so we kind of tried to get creative. And we had more interest than budgeted for, so we used that figure to correct some of those lines and give them room for the end of the year to correct the capital outlay.
Now I remember you said that there was a,
Yeah.
So on this correction then, the interest amount is increased by $30,000, which goes to the beginning fund balance basically towards that, right?
Well, I mean, if we're increasing that as a revenue line, then we can expend that. So it's, I mean, whatever is left at the end of the year will become part of their beginning fund balance.
But it gives them that wiggle room between now and the end of the
Yeah.
year due to last year's clerical
So
error.
do we though, it increases the interest line for revenue. But then do we decrease the interest line to move it to materials and supply and capital outlay?
No,
So like, here's my little notes, my little hot sheet that I kind of try to show you, but like, so we're gonna take this line from 2000 to 30, so that gives it. Well, that will give us 30,000 more dollars that we can appropriate. So then over here, we needed to like increase this line by $1,000 to cover this. And then I thought, well, if we have that extra 29,000, that will allow us to increase materials and supplies by 29 to give them some
Okay,
room.
so we're not reappropriating from one category to another, we're
No.
appropriating revenue to
Yeah.
these two, okay.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
the interest was under budgeted, and so we're showing that it is there.
and so like, if it's a transfer of appropriation, like this little paragraph at the top, it will say, in the matter of transfer of appropriation instead of unexpected revenue, something of that nature, yeah.
Okay. Okay, the flow of funds making sure.
Yeah.
I will entertain a resolution, or if there's no further discussion, motion.
I'll make a motion for resolution 2024-12 in the matter of appropriating funds due to unexpected occurrence or condition in regard to public health or rural health fund 245. Increase in interest of 30,000, materials and supplies of 29,000, and capital outlay of 1,000.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 2024-12 in the matter of appropriating funds due to unexpected occurrence or conditions in regard to public health, rural health fund 245. Any, as read, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? And hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
While you're here though, we had a question from the public at the beginning, of this session. Transfer from categories, like we were just saying, from like materials and supplies to personal services or vice versa, or to capital outlay or whatever that might, whichever that category might be. Up to 10% of the budgeted amount can be done on a resolution. Anything over that would have to be a supplemental budget. And then there's another figure in there of 15, a total of 15%.
Let me go back, if we're just doing a transfer of appropriation,
Of funds that have already been appropriated to a specific category.
right? We can move those funds around, but if we receive like an unforeseen occurrence or condition or unexpected revenue, and if it exceeds 10% of the overall budget, then we are required to do a supplemental. If we're gonna appropriate and spend it, we could still receive it in that fiscal year, and if we don't appropriate it and spend it, then it would just carry on.
So the 10% rule only applies to unexpected revenue that come in if we want to be able to expend those funds in excess of 10%.
Or like if we had to create a new fund for some reason, we would be required to do a supplemental.
Okay, so then there's another rule, a 15% rule of. Is that 15%, is that then on expenditures of a category? If it's in excess of 15% that you're reappropriating, that you have to do a.
I would have to refer to the budget
Yeah,
law
there's a-
manual.
There's a section, so bad, it was pictures sent to me, appropriation transfer, limit 15%. On contingency that can be transferred by resolution to an expenditure. the original adopted.
So if they're
original.
asking a question about like moving money from contingency and reappropriating it elsewhere within the budget, I'll be honest with, I've yet to do that in my tenure here, so it'd be something I'd have to research
Okay,
to get you the right answer.
actually, a member of the budget committee asked me that question, and I didn't really know myself, so I figured while you were here, and we were talking about the 10% rule and everything else, I'd ask you. We'll look at it further, figure out what that exactly entails. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so what's that? And the next topic under new business is the recreational immunity. Resolution. We tabled this last time. Did everybody have a chance to look it over and have any questions about it or concerns?
I looked it over and I didn't have any concerns and I totally support us, going with it.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's definitely in the county's best interest, based on recent events in the state in the last couple of years. Myself,
Yeah, it was one of the few good things that came out of the short session.
It was one of those things that Association of Oregon Counties, steering committees talked about and were involved in a lot, so.
so then I will entertain a motion in favor of resolution, Harney County Resolution number 2024-13. A resolution adopting the immunity from liability for use of trails or structures in public easements or unimproved rights of way provided in ORS 105.668 as amended by the Senate Bill 1576.
I move to adopt Harney County Resolution number 2024-13 as stated. And it's, yeah.
A motion has been made and seconded. To approve, adopt resolution number 2024-13 as read, as stated. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? And hearing none, motion carries.
This was one of those things where our county council staff took the initiative to prepare this for us, before we asked for it, and I appreciated that.
Where they work with other counties, there was probably a lot of urgency from.
Yeah, yeah, I
To
was
get it done.
appreciated that they said, hey, did you want to do this?
Next item on the, under new business is the Harney County Chamber of Commerce request for financial support of, what was that program? The,
Rare, this
Rare.
stands for Resource Assistance for Rural Environments.
so, instead of reading through this myself, I'm going to just turn the floor over to Deanna Thrall, the Director of the Chamber of Commerce.
So I did make a couple little packets to tell you a little bit about it, if you want to read a little bit more about it yourself.
Thank
So, as I said, it stands for Resource Assistance for Rural Environments. And we've had rare individuals help out at the health department and the community in the past. So it's not anything that we haven't dealt with. How the program works is it is managed through Oregon State University. And what it is they have college graduates who are specialized in different areas. So they have 3 different areas that they will help with. So in the first packet, that tells about the assistance, it tells about the 3 different programs. The one that I'm looking at is community and economic development. They also have environmental and food systems that they can help with. So I know that Christine Stokely has put in for Rare to help with food systems for her. So you'll be able to see how the program works with her this year. It is too late for us to get a Rare for this year. However, we have to apply for next April. And so it fits in this budget year. And so the reason I'm asking is the county used to actually, give money to the Harney County Chamber. So, before we had the issue with the finances or whatever, I have a budget and I should have grabbed it, that it's about $16,000 is what the county used to give, from what I've seen. And I don't know where that money came from, if it was lottery money or economic development, where I'm not sure where it came from. So in order for us to get this, rare individual, it costs about $50,000 for their wages. We're responsible for $26,000 of that. The Ford Foundation has a grant that they will pay for $10,000 of that, so at least it's still $16,000. I know that's not within your guys' budget, but I don't know if maybe, $3,000 to $5,000, that may be something that could be budgeted. We don't need the funds until next April. And I think it may be one of those things that we don't have to provide the money until, so the schedule of how it works is, we apply for in April. And then in May, they look at applicants. So we have to give them a detailed list of projects that we want the rare person to work on. So the projects that I would like to work on, and I wish I'd brought our tourism plan. We have a tourism plan. So the economic development is the category that I want somebody with those expertise to help us with. I would like to be able to do an outdoor recreation assessment and then start building on that. So I would like to be able to put together information, brochures that we can put on our website. We can have the chamber to help market our area better. And so that's what I would like to use this individual for. And so when we submit our application in April, how that works is that they will find an individual with that skill set that is willing to come to our area. And then they will place them in September. They will be here for 11 months. And that's the projects that they will work on. And so if the county chose to give money to the Chamber of Commerce, that is the only thing that money is for. And we will go for grants and potentially to the cities to see if we can get the difference so that we can pay that $16,000 so that we can get aware. I think that it'll greatly increase our capacity as chamber and help us be able to work better. And so that's my ask today.
Thank you. It's good
Questions?
timing. This is a good time for you to present this to us. We still have a budget meeting or two. And, I don't know what we can do, but we can discuss it. So
Right.
thank you.
And maybe
very
even
much.
if it's a little bit this year, and maybe another portion could be out of next year's budget if that's possible to help. I'm hoping to do anything that you're able to help.
Are your numbers once more?
So $50,000 is how much it costs for that individual that they will be paid. 26,000 of it is what the host organization is responsible for, and it is all in your paperwork that I gave you. The Ford Foundation has a grant for $10,000. So that leaves us with $16,000 that we need to come up with for this person. So basically, we're paying part-time wages for a full-time individual for 11 months. And they have the option to actually, if they enjoy being here and we have the funds to do 2 years, they can actually serve 2 years. So this is part of the AmeriCorps program. And so if they want to, I actually served in AmeriCorps when I was in my 20s, and we got stipends to help pay for our schooling. And so I believe they also get stipends to help pay off their college loans and whatever. And so that's an incentive for them to do this as well and to get the experience in that field.
Because our budget is tight and we will certainly
Yeah,
be considering
totally.
this. Are you
Yeah.
also going to the cities as well?
Yes.
Yeah,
I would.
maybe if everybody pitches in a little.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, and we'll look for grants as well, for us to be able to do that. And there may be, we're trying to tighten our belts as much as we can so that we have for us to do things like this, I feel are really important that will further, what the chamber does for the community.
You know, what caught my eye, and just glancing really quickly at the economic development, part of the handout. Obviously, you wanted to do something related to tourism strategic plan.
Yeah.
But I like volunteerism, because I know that like the fair and just the need for volunteerism always in our community to make things work. You know, if we were to have a second year, you know, maybe they could move into that with some real, you know, key recommendations on things like, you know, I'm just making this up, but you know, like the Harney County Burns High School Key Club would be part of a way to help keep volunteerism organized at that level, you know, and certain entities and groups here in the community could maybe take on some of that. I know that our fair manager learned a lot about some sustainable volunteerism in California and whatnot, a couple of years ago, but you know, nobody's had time to even work on it to
This is
get the
amazing.
partners together to figure it out.
This is an amazing program, and I hope that it may be one of those things that we could have multiple, rare, individuals in our community. Because, and like I said, I've worked in it and I've seen, I did it in the school setting, but, there are a lot of different areas that they can work in. We have a systems, group through High Desert Partnership. And that's somebody that could potentially help us, in that area, the fair. I mean, you guys are doing economic development with the fairground, you know, all the time as well. So this could be something that you could also apply for an individual to help Lindsay do all of those things and market it and develop it as well. And you could apply for development.
Thank you.
I know our position has been, Deanna left already, but I know our position has been in the past on a lot of these asks that, sorry, has been a decline on requests in the past in the recent. One thing that stands out different about this one, though, I think, is the fact of employment. It's funds that are dedicated towards the employment and staffing of that individual or that position. Which in a way brings revenue to the county, back to the county through groceries and rent and whatever, you know. It's just a little different than a blanket ask, I think, for
I think we should definitely have some conversations about it. Yeah.
So,
But I think especially as you reach out to some other groups, even our, you know, I think of the BLM and Forest Service, they also have to focus on outdoor recreation, and obviously with the amount of federal lands we have here in this county, you know, if they have any funds available to help with that recreation side that could be put towards this, I think it'd be an interesting thing to approach them about. And very appropriate, because a lot of our outdoor recreation is key to those lands that they manage.
And we have a lot of stuff on the south end that could use some attention. Perhaps BLM would appreciate someone like that working with them on a couple aspects of the Alvord.
well, the recreational opportunities that they're gonna be identifying are public lands.
Yeah.
Locations.
So,
Well, and where we're at right now is, you know, without having a major industry, you know, we do rely on tourism more than people want to you know, accept or whatever. And if we can develop it in a way that we're not, you know, over using our lands or whatever, that they're kind of distributed, and then we can do it in a strategic way. So that, yes, they're coming, but they're not, you know, destroying what we have here. We still want to keep Harney County, you know, the way that it is, but we also can benefit from the money that tourism brings.
well, and even, you know, the dark sky stuff, although we opted not to become a sanctuary officially with that organization, doesn't mean that the marketing of opportunities could not take place.
All right, thank you very much. We shall continue the conversation and see what we can pencil in or not.
I appreciate it.
And thank you for doing the candidates night the other night. That's a community service to hold that. Thank you.
Next, any further discussion? Next topic on our new business is a letter of support to help the Mount Here Field Station secure grant funding. This is presented by Commissioner Doral.
Yes, I was approached by, the Mount Here Field Station, which I've not been very involved with before. If I would help, write a letter of support for a grant that they are trying to get. I was actually approached by the grant writer at first because someone I knew 20 years ago type of thing. And, what they're trying to do there is get a grant to, get a new water filtration system and, rehab their dormitories and upgrade and stuff there. And they also would, like to be part of a perfect location for safe, accessible emergency housing for any of our emergency management scenarios, et cetera, which makes very good sense. And so I was happy to go ahead and write a letter of support, which I attached for your information. And I put, our emergency manager, Melinda Todd, in touch with them, and she's gonna invite them to be part of the LEPC, the local emergency planning committee. And I invited them to feel free to try to come on our agenda sometime and tell us a little more about themselves, because we would all like to hear that, and they're most welcome. So it's just for your information. Wanted to let you know, I think that's a good relationship to have. So thank you.
What's the, kind of timeline with that grant process? Are you looking?
Let's see, I was contacted on a Thursday and my letter had to be to them on Monday. So it's probably been submitted since then, for all I know. It was a very quick turnaround.
And they'll keep you posted too.
Yes, yes.
It'd be interesting.
It was one of those, it's like, okay.
Okay.
Didn't have time to talk to you guys, I just said, okay, let's do that.
I've had those too. That one's interesting and it's multifaceted in both tourism and emergency preparedness.
All right,
So,
Well, our fire crews do stay out there, at times. And updating the facility, I'm sure is working.
right.
that takes us to the end of, new business, and under correspondence, the City of Hines zoning letter. This is in regards to the Telos development that we kind of spoke about a little bit earlier in development. And, a notification from the city, in regards to the proposed zoning change and change to the comprehensive plan for the city of Hines. We'll have until 5 p.m. May 3rd to raise any objections to this action. If you fail to raise any issues, close the record, failure to provide. So basically, request for comment. I don't have any myself at this time. I don't have any.
No, I think the city of Burns, it'd be interesting to see how they're gonna weigh in on it, as it'll be potentially their roads being impacted due to the in and out of that area, so. I think, keeping kind of in tune to some of their comments, potentially, obviously, the location is within Hines, but I think the access might be within the Burns area, so. No, it doesn't touch into the county. As far as I understand, there's some county land that it would come on to or of that nature, but.
From what I've heard and been made aware of so far on this development is it's gonna straddle, the development itself is actually gonna straddle Burns and Hines both.
Was Burns, already zoned correctly for them?
I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna end up having to go through the same process and just haven't got to this point yet, or if they're already zoned appropriately. I don't know.
Curious.
So, anyways, there's that item for correspondence. The next item under correspondence that we kind of spoke to earlier too was the big trucks. In the packet, they provided some sample letters to we'll sign them jointly as a court. or I can sign them on behalf, however the court wishes to do that. To Senator Merkley's office, Senator Wyden's office, and Representative Benz. There's also a packet of already submitted letters from other organizations, such as the Oregon State Sheriff's Association, in support of against the increased size of trucks on our highways, trailer sizes. There's a letter opposing that, I guess would be the right way to say it, letters in opposition to these proposed federal legislative changes. And by Union County. And the Oregon Association of Counties Engineers and Surveyors.
I think, you know, we kind of already discussed it. I feel comfortable with you, participating and, you know, expressing some concerns on that.
Okay.
Me too. I'm comfortable with you
Okay.
doing that.
I think it's important, like we mentioned and spoke to earlier, I think it's an important thing to voice our disapproval in that. And I wanted to make sure that it got the fullest support by the county court versus just myself.
Yeah, more isn't always more when it comes to things like that.
That is all I have for correspondence, unless anybody else has anything they want to introduce.
I did just share with the court, the Grasshopper Mormon Cricket General Fund Allocation Grant documents. I was on a Zoom meeting with them, so I hadn't shared them with you, but I'd mentioned this prior, but I haven't shared the actual documents till now. I was on a Zoom yesterday where we were trying to kind of work out the details because as most things happen with the state, they allocate the funds and the details come later. And so we were trying to hammer out what the details would be. In 2022, the way that the program ran was that the fund was allocated up to a 75% reimbursement for spraying and other things associated with grasshopper and Mormon cricket control. And so it wasn't defined on the front end what that rate of reimbursement would be, whether it be 100%, whether it be up to 75. Malheur County looked at what was done in 2022 and put together some documents that basically resemble what the 2022 documents were with an up to 75% cost share agreement. And so within this, 5 counties have been given a direct $100,000 allocation to spend towards this control. We are one of those 5 counties. 3 of those counties were on the Zoom meeting yesterday to discuss this. We have another Zoom at 1 o'clock with Director Henderson to discuss it further with the other 2 counties included this time. And so I have reached out to the Soil and Water Conservation District personnel, Tyler Goss, who has tended to lead up a lot of the grasshopper meetings that we've had, and that's kind of a lot of the role that he plays with that. So if possible, I would like to actually see us pass those dollars through to them and have them implement. If that's not going to work out for them, then we as a county would have to do it. We can use Malheur County's paperwork that they've already created, and it's a pretty straightforward process. They are really trying to keep it simple. It would have a date of October 31st for all applications to be in. And then you can see total amount from the 100,000 that would have to be allocated, what the cost share would be, and do those numbers. And then Senator Finley and Representative Owens indicated that if it would exceed what the 75% would be that they could refund up to, that they would go back and get some additional funds from the e-board to at least try to get it up to that 75%. Because I told them in 2022, one of the bigger problems we have is people try to budget you're trying to know what you're actually going to be able to spray, so it really limits the amount of acres you can spray if you're only gonna get a 50% cost share or only a 25% cost share, versus if you actually know you're gonna get a 75% cost share, you'll spray more acres. And so that's kind of what I'm gonna keep driving home in the meeting today, is we need more assurances that we can be within that 75% range, so as producers actually go out and try to do these control measures, that they can make the better impact, because they aren't, trying to play that budgetary constraint, if they only get a limited amount of reimbursement. And so I'll keep you posted on that, but I am planning on, if the court's good with that, in going ahead and signing the grant agreement for Harney County. And then we will work on trying to get Soil and Water Conservation District staff involved with some of this, but
So
It's
would there be some administrative,
that's part of today's conversation.
Okay.
But we didn't have the right staff on the call yesterday to ask that question, so that is on today's
Great.
list. I did bring that up to her.
because I assume there would be some reporting involved as well
There
as.
is some reporting, and that is the one thing that is defined, and so, the paperwork that Mount Airy County created, meets all those marks for the reporting, and it still keeps it fairly simple of what the reporting is, of taking pictures, showing the township and range that was sprayed. As most of you are aware, we are very limited on those that can do those applications. Nick Shots, one of the few
Backlogged.
between here and Mount Airy County that can do that, and so
Can our own, weed department
they could.
do that
They,
application?
they could, do some ground spraying, but from the sounds of it, they were very booked with their weed spraying, so it would all depend on the timing. Now here County, I know in the Jordan Valley area has started spraying within the last 2 weeks and already seeing an outbreak. We're a little bit behind that here. And I haven't had a lot of folks indicating that they're seeing them hatch yet, but we have been very cold and wet,
It's
so.
a pretty time sensitive,
It's
right? You
very
have to
time
spray it before
sensitive.
they,
Yeah, once they get to a certain stage of their morphine,
So-
it's ineffective.
And as I recall last year, this conversation, the chemical that's used on this has to be used in that window. There was another chemical that could be used beyond that window, but it wasn't approved. Is that,
It wasn't reimbursable.
wasn't it?
Yeah, so a producer could still use that other chemical, but it affects them at a later stage of the hatching. And so once they reach a certain stage, the allowable reimbursement chemical is limited.
is it too far along for that part of the conversation on your Zoom meeting?
No, it's really,
Just
a lot of
if they would
questions
consider that
still.
just because of the capacities of the approved contractors who can do this work, that sometimes we may have to go with the later stage.
I agree that that is something that needs to be, tried to negotiate on. And the other thing that you're probably aware of, especially with your role with BLM prior, is, Mormon crickets really are, transitioning towards Harney County in the south end. And so I think, really trying to encourage, control anywhere we can with that is, going to be a great benefit to us in the long run. They continue to encroach. And so I hope some of this can go to even the control of that on the south end where baits, a little easier with the timing of to put out. And
Sounds good.
So is the 100,000, just for clarification, is the $100,000 been, we can spend that, or is that
we can,
the 75% limit?
so the 100,000 is the pot to work from. So you'll have your 100,000. Your producers will all put in applications of what they did during the year and turn it in by October. Then you add up that amount, and that's when it would be 65%, 50%, up to 75%. That's when you work those numbers, and then they can look at the e-board. So if we're below that 75%, to try to get some additional funds to bring everybody up to whole. There is an additional 425,000 that wasn't dedicated to these 5 counties. So as the 5 counties had a $500,000 split amongst us, but there's an additional 425 that can be tapped into immediately to make that number whole, but if it would exceed that, but that money is available to the other counties. We, as one of the 5 counties, got prioritized for direct funding.
Did Malheur County, how do they structure the evaluation of the applicants when they come in from?
I can share that with you if you want to look at it.
I mean,
It's,
What
it's not
body
an
of people,
evaluation.
made those allocations?
You just have them fill it out, and anybody that fills it out properly, it's very straightforward. Because a lot of the data comes from the applicator themselves,
Okay,
because most of them are licensed to do that, and they actually
Okay.
share a lot of that information with the producer to turn back in.
okay.
And so it really is a straightforward, this is what was treated during these times. Here's pictures and documentation of.
So we are guaranteed to receive $100,000.
That we would have to receive immediately.
Okay, so then since, well, when is that gonna come this fiscal year or?
Oh, they want to send it out like yesterday.
I'm all for receiving money.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's spending.
No, we
expending.
wouldn't have to spend it before July 1, so we could receive it now and not plan on
Okay.
spending it before July 1.
So that was gonna be my next question,
Yeah.
and is whenever we are due to receive it, whether it's now or after July 1st, we need to look at where we're gonna put it and an expenditure line so that we can
Yeah.
get it out the door.
No, and that's why.
I wonder if our weed department would have any role in at least sort of the administrative
Potentially they
or
could help with.
at the county level, whether it gets passed on to SWCD or anybody else, for work.
Well, and like I say, SWCD would be a very appropriate one if we can get them on board. And so I'm put in a message to Tyler yesterday and hopefully we can hear back from them. If not, definitely, our staff with the weed department could potentially be a place to bring that. But typically Tyler and them are who people are familiar with in the county.
And Tyler's on our weed board now,
Yes.
and whatnot, so there's close communication there anyway.
So with this $100,000, again, just for clarification, there's no commitment on the county's, the other 25% or whatever, there's no commitment on the county's part.
No,
That will be
The landowner.
the application from the landowners that treat it.
Yeah, there's no commitment of funds from us. As Patty mentioned, we're hoping to at least, if we have to be the one holding the funds, if we can't pass it on, that we would get an admin out of it, and that's like, say, today's conversation
Yeah.
has a list of further questions before we.
Sure, no, that's good.
Like I said, they were wondering why we hadn't sent in our application yet, and I'm like, there's still questions to be answered.
We like to think before we sign sometimes, that was great. We didn't get this.
I have a letter, for discussion and correspondence, and I'm kind of lumping it in now under correspondence because it was a letter that was just given to me. Was hand delivered a copy the other day, and then there were multiple other copies that were delivered this morning. I'm not sure if the recipient intended for, what to do with it? Intended for it to be distributed, we made it part of the record. This past week, not to jump up into it, I must have left it, I put it in. Yeah, I might have, those 4 or 5 copies of that letter. Now, this past week, after the last budget committee hearing, on the 19th, and or on the 18th actually, but wherein we discussed briefly the senior center funding and the senior center's budget, and then was tabled because the letter was introduced that the budget committee wanted to have time to read and digest. So the senior center's budget was tabled until tomorrow, May 2nd. And then subsequent to that, an emergency meeting was called by the senior center board in discussing of this topic. Thank you. I fully would state that that there was a lot of over exaggeration and a lot of over. It was blown out of proportion. In the budget committee, there was really no discussion as to eliminating the position of the county or of the executive director for the hub.
No.
It was a discussion of, and besides the fact the position is a hub position, it's not, I mean, it's funded and paid for by the county, but it's not a county position, it's a hub executive director.
Yeah, at some point I'd like to see the documentation.
So, so this is the letter that was brought in from a citizen, Pat Brewster. But anyway, I'm stating this in clarity because I want this out there for everybody. There was no discussion really of doing that at this time. It was more of a recommendation and possibly of how we could do it in the future. And then that went from that to the position being cut by the county and all kinds of other misunderstanding in what the discussion was, as I said. I attended that meeting and I explained to the board and the public that was there that there was no recommendation to eliminate that position, that it was fully funded at this time, and that was the proposed budget, zero balance budget that was proposed, that was part of it. So, I think a lot of this letter and a lot of the other conversations going on is very, again, as I say, blown out of proportion and, didn't need to take place. I understand people's concerns, I really do. But, I want to assure the public that, it is not our intent during this budget cycle to eliminate the, executive director's position from, or at least as proposed and presented right now. I mean, I can't say what's gonna happen as a vote or anything else, but my proposed budget still has that position funded this year.
Well, there's a lot of conversations to be had moving forward in general, not just for these budget meetings for this coming budget, as we know.
These, and I also wanted to clarify too, that these discussions are not really at the budget committee level. This is discussions between the county court and the hub board. And in months to come, it would be my recommendation that we hold a joint session between their board and our court and have these discussions on how to move forward.
That'd be much more appropriate.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I hadn't heard of him, so. Ignorance is bliss.
There were some very concerned members of the public at the meeting, and rightfully so, I understand that. But I think it was very early on, with no decisions, no recommendations had been made in that direction, so just want to clarify that for the record.
Yes, thank you.
So, correspondence, good scheduling, the county court, next county court session will be May 15th. And then June 5th. And because of the holiday, after that will be June 20th, we decided, I think, at the last meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any other meetings to mention?
Well, we've got a budget board meeting tomorrow. And we have on May 30th, the budget approval session, but in between, should the budget board need to deliberate as the budget board, once everything's, we've received, I mean, maybe we can get to it tomorrow. But I kind of doubt it.
Schedule got
I'm just thinking that there may be an additional session may be needed for the real conversation of the budget committee. Should there be anything that they want to move forward on that hasn't already been funded in the budget and that would need some discussion?
My intent was to cover that on May 30th,
Oh,
on the
well,
last meeting on May 30th.
I would suggest that might be cutting it too tight, because approval is a formal action, right? So that would be like another budget committee meeting. But I mean, in the past, there's been approval at the county court level and then adoption at the county court level as
No,
well,
we-
I thought.
We approve, the budget will be approved by the budget committee on the 30th. We tentatively have approved what we've worked on so far. And then, hopefully we get through the rest of them tomorrow. And those will be tentatively approved. And then from May 2nd to May 30th, because we do still have a collective bargaining agreement talks to deal with. So those could affect, the bottom line. And then when we come back on May 30th, anything that's changed, such as, like this $100,000 here where we're gonna plug it in and take it out from, those kind of changes like that can be reviewed very quickly on the May 30th meeting. Then the budget committee will go from proposed to approved budget. And then the county court itself will take it, this body will take that approved budget and adopt it.
Well,
Amongst our,
And the
And we
budget
could
board
do-
on the 30th will transfer that information to you for your action.
so
I,
then,
I'm just looking, saying, in case there is,
I think we should schedule one other date so that
If
after we get
needed.
through the second,
Because-
just to have it on the books. so
me
that we-
too,
I'm
because
gonna have to re-advertise them, because if you add dates, you have to re-advertise the.
I know, but,
I think we're early on enough to get the advertising. out.
it's just, experience has shown that if we don't, we will need it, and it'll be a flatlex,
Okay.
so.
Well, we'll advertise then, and advertise an additional meeting for the 1st of June,
Well,
first part of
I was
June.
thinking
before the
tackle it in
approval,
May.
right? I mean, we wanna have it before approval, because
Well, we're
if
not
we
gonna-
need it, it would be a discussion to have before it's approved by the budget committee. It would be a discussion of the budget committee.
All right,
I mean, that's. We take all our meetings to go through the proposed budget in great detail, and then. Almost like last year, at the last minute, some major things were raised and were unable to be.
last year, the last minute was I missed the resolution, and we had to have a emergency county court session to do that resolution the day before.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about things like, the administrative position, major things that we've talked about as the
How about
county
May
needs to
8th?
do.
Would May 8th work?
No, Because it's not gonna be time enough to advertise. I'm gonna have to have at least 2 weeks. Probably the best date is gonna be somewhere in the 3rd week of May. By statute, that we'll have to advertise the additional date.
22nd, I'm currently.
I could do 22nd. Since I'm not planning to go to the DEQ soil workshop,
What is that?
which would be cool to watch, or hear about, but
22nd, 23rd.
I could do 23rd
Oh,
also.
not 23rd.
No?
I
Okay.
have to travel from work.
Okay.
Second's good with me. But I'll have to reach out to the budget committee and
Right.
make sure they're available.
And if we talk about it tomorrow, you'd still have
We
2
can
weeks.
determine if that.
And I'm not trying to throw a wrench, I just feel like that's part of what we really need to do, and we hardly ever have time to do it. Once we get through all the departments and all the funds. To take a breath and go. What can be done if we need to, that we need to do.
Can't believe it's already May. Wow.
I can't either.
Um,
What happened to April?
Thank you for entertaining that for budget discussion. Tomorrow.
any other meetings to know?
The big meeting will be Tuesday, May 21st, just to get it on the May schedule. What does big stand for? Blues Intergovernmental Council,
May 21st, you said?
yes, May 21st, 10 to 2:30. I'm not sure where it'll be yet.
There's an Eastern Oregon Counties Association meeting Zoom, I think
Yes,
on,
the 13th.
May 13th at 9 o'clock, 9 to 11.
What was that?
Eastern Oregon Counties Association, EOCA. May 13th at 9. And is there OWRD groundwater rulemaking, or there's an
We
info
have-
session
we
that I might zoom in on, just like,
Oh,
I think it's one of those, just
That's a
those.
whole nother rules making process.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's an
Maybe I-
important one.
Is
It's
Okay.
a statewide. I get it.
It's one I might zoom in
Yeah,
on
it's,
just to learn.
it's sure worth listening to. Tyler there. I'll call him back.
I think that's all I have on May.
And we have yet to get a determination on whether the 30th will be the date for the site fill.
Oh, yeah.
So. Still waiting to hear. They've been a little silent.
Have they?
But just so the court is aware, we did have some conversation around, the Division 10 rulemaking processes, everyone's aware, was completed last year. The engagement has a very specific requirement of local governments, and so it's been a little bit wonky with the Division 512 rulemaking process that we were already engaged in prior to the Division 10 finalizing. And so we may be looking at re-engaging OWRD as a local government to ensure that they follow their own process with Division 10. And so
What was
just
the
because,
gist of their reason?
well, the gist of it is, Division 10 will be used in other jurisdictions throughout the state. And so we're the first ones falling under the new rules. And so you don't want them to start off without doing proper notification to a local government, because
Correct.
future use of it, you want them to ensure that they're doing it properly. So there might be some communication on that we might see in a future court meeting where they will do some of that proper engagement with us.
That'd be great. That'd be
So,
better.
just so you're aware, that's still in the churning of getting there, but that was harmony, but trying to make sure we're engaged with,
Absolutely.
appropriate manner.
Yeah. Any general deliberation conversation, general discussion?
No, I've kind of shared the highlights, of what I've been working on.
Well, if there be nothing further, then we shall stand adjourned at 11:38 a.m. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. It's one of Harmony's suggestions for saying, they're being so quiet, maybe we should.
Good.
Get on
Nice to have
top.
Harmony working for Mark, isn't it?
When she's not even working for Mark, she's kind of just working with us as a local body of people within the RAG that saying, hey, make sure